Hello, it's me, and we're going to continue our journey through the cuboid classifications and the different strategies with the next set of cuboids. So just to kind of review and to reiterate, it all basically stems from this 3x3, and all of our cuboids eventually come down to this 3x3x2. The 3x3x2 is really of the class that we call the dominoes, and it has very specific solve strategies. Dominoes can come in the form of the n by n plus o by n plus o, or n by n by n plus o, where o is any odd number, basically. So these are your classic dominoes. Then we moved off into our shapeshifters, which is of the form of n by n plus n, which is of the form of n by n plus p, which shapeshifts as it turns, as it goes by 180 degrees. And then we rounded our way into the bricks, which is basically of the form of n by n plus o by n plus p, where you have two sides that are of the same layer and one sides that are not. Two evens and an odd, or two odds and an even. So now we're going to head into the next series of cuboid classification, which I call the floppies. So here's the archetypic floppy over here, and this is of the form, if this was of the form of n by n plus p, where p is an even number, this is of the form n by n plus p by n plus p, where that's an even number. So it shares some of the characteristics of these guys as being a shapeshifter, but unlike the bricks, it's a shapeshifter in all directions. This 3x3x1 is the classic example, archetypic example, the simplest of examples. You can see that it turns over here. Now obviously, being only of one dimension, shape-shifting is generally not something to rely upon, unless of course you're this puzzle, in which case you can shapeshift, which is interesting. So this is, I guess, in many ways a pure form of that puzzle. But we do not reduce the floppies down to this. This is your classic 3x1 floppy. The next step up, of course, will be this guy over here, the 4x4x2, or 2x4x4, however you want to look at that. So this one does shapeshift in all directions, and I actually kind of went through a strategy in a video with that as well. But this has the characteristics like these guys of shapeshifting in all directions, but unlike these shapeshifters, and much like the bricks here, it actually has in association with it a parity. What I'm going to do is maybe bring this a little more down to earth here. There we go. A little more down to earth there. So in looking at this, parity is basically something that's born out of a reductive strategy where you're taking a more complex puzzle and you're taking it down to a simpler version of that, a simpler puzzle. And what we're actually doing is we're going to take puzzles like this, which in this case we have the 4x4x2, but the next step we have the 2x4x4. The next step up above this, of course, is going to be the 3x3x5, which you've seen me do as well. And this has the same characteristics, shape-shifting in all directions. Basically what happens is that there's not really any reduction that happens here, but we're going to be reducing all of these puzzles to this guy, believe it or not. But because we have different degrees of freedom here, and we have different degrees of shape-shifting that happens, when we reduce it to a simpler puzzle, we may not have reduced it in a way that could have been scrambled in this position. And if that happens, well, we can't solve it like that. We encountered something like that with the bricks over here, and I showed you different examples from different layers of puzzles of how we start off from a shape-shifted form and then reduce it down to the flat one-dimensional form, but in so doing may not have reduced it in a functional way that it could have been scrambled into had you started that way. You don't get parities like that with the shapeshifters, the n by n plus p's, and that's because you solve it pretty much like a cube. And when you do that, you end up with a solution where you have everything solved except for a couple layers, and that's done domino style. So what is the nature of the parity that happens with this? Well, I actually did do a tutorial on the 2x4x4, but the way that I've done it, the way that I've refined the technique is a little bit different than how I've done it in the past. And what I'm going to do is, over the next series of videos demonstrating the higher order floppies, is I'm going to be demonstrating a bunch of different floppies that you may be interested in, maybe thinking of buying, or perhaps just want to see how they move. So the next one that I'm going to be doing is this guy over here. Now we did the 3x5x5. We're going to go a slightly different step up with this tray poom puzzle, which is the 3x7x7. Because it has n by p, n by n plus p by n plus p, and the p is any even number, it still follows those same rules. So this is a shapeshifter, shapeshifting in all directions. So because of that, all of those will have the type of parities, the floppy parities that we're going to talk about. It's not the same as the brick parities. It's a little different, and it's handled differently. We had a very specific algorithm to get out of the specific brick parities that happen with this. The good news is with the floppy parities, we don't have a new algorithm. We really just have the same algorithm, which is the Red Bull algorithm. So when looking at this, let's actually kind of move these out of the way so that they don't interfere with anything. I'm actually going to do a little bit of a tandem solve where I'm going to be solving this and this at the same time. But this is to show Chafum's product. Again, this is a modification of another cuboid. And as we go through the scramble here, we'll show all the different ways this turns and how nicely this turns by doing a 180-degree scramble first. So you can see that this is literally straining to hold itself together, although it's very, very stable, but you can see its guts right through here. A puzzle like this basically reminds me of those superhero or super villains where they have the muscles that are literally bursting out of their skin. Well, that's what it seems like, that the guts are literally bursting out through here. And just turn this over here and here. Get some good 180-degree turns. The movement of this, like all Chafum products, is very, very smooth. That's what I enjoy about using his puzzles and his products, is because I don't have to struggle with the motion. Some puzzles are like that, and you can't help it. They're the only things that are available to you, but not his. Every one of them. So once doing this, we now can do our shape-shifting scrambles. Just to show that portion of it. So we'll move this up over here, say move this over here, now maybe move this over here, then double turn this over here. Just try to maintain as much of the movements as possible, because pretty soon these ends here are going to become bandaged and not available to me to turn. Right now they can. I'll try to maintain that as much as I can. And then after a while, we can now start shape-shifting in all directions with reckless abandon. Now, as I'm shape-shifting this, certain portions are becoming inaccessible to me, as you can see. So this is really turning into a puzzle of the lowest common denominator. And in this case, because this is a 3x3x7, this is really turning into a 3x3. You can see the center is deeply buried in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to scramble this, and we'll pick it up from there. Abracadabra. Okay, not bad, not too shabby. Now this handsome fellow over here, this 4x4x2, just to kind of show some demonstrations about this. This is made by Tray Poom. This is Ola Jansen's. I've actually demonstrated this before, but I've not quite demonstrated it with the solve strategy that I'm going to be using. I had a different way of working through the parity. It was cumbersome. It was not very efficient, and I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it a different way. So I'm just going to go through a little scramble of this one too, because this is a 2x4x4. The way that I'm scrambling it now is really going to become basically a 2x2. So as I start shape-shifting this, we'll move this like so. I'll move this twice over here. Move the bottom here again. Maybe move it across over here. And now that I've done that enough times, I can start doing the full shape-shifting scramble. Now again, I've only got 2x2 moves available to me at this point. Okay, So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start with the solves of these two, focusing in on this 3 by 5 by 5, this 3 by 7 by 7. So the first step in dealing with floppies, now there's not a lot of these guys available. Most of these are custom-made puzzles, or this one you can get from Shapeways actually. But as these become more available, which I think that they will be, the strategies that I'm going to be used can be applied in those unique ways. So this being a 3 by 7 by 7, I'm going to solve like a 3 by 3, just like I'd solve this as a 2 by 2. Now the reason that I'm doing that is not because it gets me specifically very close to the solution. What I need to do is I need to free up a lot of these layers that are unavailable to me, because how am I going to put in a lot of these inner edges if they're bandaged? So by doing a 3 by 3 solve, it's going to make it to where I have more layers available to me. And then there's the ultimate reductive strategy of taking the centers that are here and putting it to where they're supposed to be here. So a very simple idea, a very simple demonstration of that is starting off with this. We're going to start off with a 2 by 2 solve. So quite simply, I'm going to put in the centers of as I would any other 2 by 2. So this will come here, this will come here, we got this one over here, turn it down, up, and as I'm putting in one center, I automatically will have the other center put in. Turn, 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 and turn. So it's as simple as that. This is solved over here. Now I've got to solve the second portion of that. To solve the second portion of this, I'm basically going to treat it as though this was one section over here but flipped wrong. So in this case, this is flipped right. The rest of these are flipped wrong. To do that, we'll do the RIDIRD moves all the way around, just like we did for the final step of a 3 by 3 when we're permuting the corners, because this is kind of a corner only. But in any case, I'm going to roll these in like it was made up of two sides. Only in this case, the two sides isn't one color and another color. It's just one side that's flip-flop wrong. But I don't define this as any particular color. In other words, this is white, but it's not white and red. It's not white and orange. If it was, then I'd have to specifically put these different pieces in specific places in correlation with this bottom piece. But I'm not doing that. Instead, all of these pieces that are bandaged or attached to these centers are just coming along for the ride. Now because of that, I don't have any real good way of correlating this to an actual functional color in association with this center. If I did, then I can do an actual 2 by 2 solve where these colors had meaning, but they don't. Which means I'm randomly putting these colors in random places. When I'm randomly putting colors in random places, there is the possibility of putting this here when perhaps this is supposed to be over here. I have no way of knowing that. And the only way I'm going to know this is if I find that once I get this down to the flat puzzle and try to solve it like a 3 by 3 by 2, I come across an impossible situation. A situation where instead of blue corners here, red, I'll have like a blue and red or something like that. Something that's impossible. But to finish my 2 by 2 solve, I'll just do RIDIRD, RIDIRD. So this is up. Move this to the side. RIDIRD. I'm doing this until the next white one is actually up. DIRD. And finally RIDIRD. Now I actually have a tripod here, so forgive me, I'm not used to dealing with a tripod, so if I go off camera sometimes, it's because I have to position myself in a way that I'm not used to. RIDIRD. So you can see I've got the center here and I've got the center here. But this was not exactly a 2 by 2 solve because I ignored these, and by ignoring those, I may have put these in a way that doesn't make sense and can potentially cause parity because the actual reduction of trying to get it to this just isn't going to work. Let's see, maybe if I angled it up like this. All right, there's a little bit of a learning curve. Now that I've done that, what I want to do is I want to get the edges, do edge placement. But I can't really do that too well unless I get all of these down. So I can't move this down. It's not that it's incorrectly bandaged. It's actually supposed to be bandaged like this. When you have one part that's facing this way forward and another part that's facing at right angles, you can't turn this. If you have one that's facing in one direction but nothing facing the other direction at right angles to it, then you can turn it, but this is facing at right angles. So if I were to say come here, I've got nothing facing at right angles to this piece, so I can turn it around like this. So what I want to do is I want to reduce all of these down. So what I need to do is maybe say turn it over here, but that's not going to work. That frees this up. All right, so what I need to do is I need to somehow make sure that these are all facing in the same plane so I can move them all down. So how am I going to do that? Well, I can just try to reposition things. This is here, this is okay here, this is not okay over here. So I can maybe position this over here. Okay, so these two are facing the same direction and so are these. So it just took a little bit of positioning in order to get these in place here. Can move this down over here. This comes here and this comes here. So the positioning wasn't too difficult here, and then it's just a matter of edge placement. And you've seen me do edge placements before. Here's an orange and blue, or yellow and blue rather. Move this over here. Turn it in to create an edge, then I move it off to the side. Turn, turn, turn. So I'm just moving it off to the side. Here's an orange and green. Maybe I can place the other orange and green here before I turn it back, which is actually right here. Turn, turn, turn. I've got this orange and green here, now I can turn it back. So bit by bit I'm just putting things in place. Move this back over here. Orange and red. Right over here. Here's the yellow and red rather over here. Yellow and red, yellow and red. Double turn this down, turn this in. We've got this here. Move it out of the way the same way we did with the higher order cuboids. Exchange like so. And now we can make use of this by moving in the orange and yellow. And I'll just do it like this. And come across. Now this is in, so we're just going to move this to the side. I'm moving kind of fast with this because these are all techniques that you've seen before. Okay, and now we're going to want to get this in place like so. Okay, so we have these in place. And now we're just going to get our cross, so to speak. Here's the yellow and orange. Right across from that will be the yellow and red, which is already there. The one that goes to the side, well, if this is the yellow and orange over here, the green is just to the left, which tells me that green is over here, just to the left. And that leaves purple. So we have edge placement here. Now as you recall, we now get edge placement on the other side. And this is going to be done exactly the way that we did with some of the other puzzles, say this one over here. We looked at these as corners and then we put them in place. Now here's an important difference as I'm looking with this. Well, so far it's going to be done exactly the same way. Say this guy over here. As you recall with the 4x5x5, I would edge place these over here. Then in order to edge place these, I would have to do a corner swap. These two are looked at as corners and I'd swap here to here. And that was always a very clean process. And we'll do the same thing over here. Okay, what we're going to have to do is, in order to say move an orange one into here, I don't have the orange one here to do a corner swap. So I'm going to have to find the other orange that's over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, look at all this as an edge now and move this to the opposite side over here. Once I do that, I can then put the orange one right next to this. So to R, to U, to R, to U, to R, to U. Why did I do that? Because it places the orange one here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a corner swap to get these two in. So, 2R, U, 2R, UI, 2R, turn here, 2R, UI, 2R, U, 2R, and we're good. So this is in. And this is in. And this is not in. And this is not in. So what's wrong with this picture? Well, there's a very important difference between what happened here and what would have happened, say, over here. But instead of using this one, let's use its close cousin over here. This is a 4x4x3 as opposed to a 4x4x2. 4x4x3 is really nothing like this. It's not a floppy at all. It's a domino. It's non-shape-shifting. It only turns in 180 degrees. Now, the similarity is that I would have done exactly the same thing. If I had blue and some other color, I'd treat these both as though they were corners. I'd get the blue square blue edge over here. If it was here, I'd do a adjacent edge swap, put it over here, then treat it as a corner and get it in. Here's an important difference though. You would never end up with this situation. You'd always have a situation where two are in, where these two are in, and all the rest would be out. You would never have a situation where two are in. It couldn't happen here. It would have broken the law of cubes. And yet here, you do get that. And the reason that you get that is because when you reduce this down to its floppy, down to its 3x3x2 or domino cousin, you did it in a way where one of the centers, when it came down, should have come down here, but ended up coming down here. In this case, that never would have happened. Even if you were to do, say, a shapeshifter, like this guy, the 4x4x6, so too in this situation, once you went through the reductive process, you would not have been able to have put, say, this to here or this to here. Because there would have been a consistent bandaging between this piece and this piece. You could have never separated it, basically. In this case, that's not so, and hence this is where you get the classic floppy parity. So what I'm going to show you is the simple way of getting out of the floppy parity, and it has to do with how we get it from the top, from an up position to a down position, how to invert it. What you're going to do is you have to take the two sides here that are out and put them opposite each other. So I'm going to do an adjacent edge swap over here to make that happen. To our U, to our U, to our, to U, to R, to U, to R, U, to R, UI, to R. So here it is over here. Now here's the technique that you're going to use. We're going to do an algorithm that will basically flip these up. Because ultimately what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, pluck it out and put it here, take this, pluck it out and put it here. So the Red Bull algorithm will flip these two up. And that's going to be 2R, 2B, 2U, L, 2 up, RI, 2 up, R, 2 up, 2F, R, 2F, LI, 2B, 2R. Okay, so that had the expected effect. It lifted them up. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to double turn it, do a 2B to bring it down, and now I'm going to bring this all the way over to here. Now I want you to notice something that happened that I neglected to point out. This green was over here, this blue was over here. The Red Bull algorithm not only lifted it up, it swapped them, and that's the key technique of getting out of this situation. Because now I'm going to do 2L from the middle L and move this over here. The Red Bull algorithm will now swap these two. This will come down and over here, and this will come up and over here. So it'll flip-flop these two. Now imagine this green is now going to be up, this blue is going to be down. Well, this green is up and this blue is down. So you can see that we're going to match those two together. So 2R, 2B, 2U, L. Two up, RI, 2 up, R, 2 up, 2F, R, 2F, LI, 2B, 2R. And that's exactly what happened. It inverted these. So now all I have to do is do another 2L and these are now matched up. These are matched up, and one more Red Bull will bring these down. Get very used to the Red Bull algorithm with these floppy parities, because you're going to be doing it over and over and over again. Okay, so the end result is now these are back. Now what you're going to find is the centers will be a little bit messed up, but that's okay. We'll just go through the process of getting them back with algorithms that shall not ruin what you just did. And now we can say for sure that we have truly reduced this to our 3x3x2. We've now done that, and we can continue to finish this up completely domino style with complete tranquility and security to our U, to our UI, to our. And since there's no middle layer, I don't worry about parity. To our U. So this has now become a domino. This is strictly domino solves, domino solutions, without any issues with placement, now that the parity has been fixed. So here, you look for two corners that are in. Can this have parity? Nope, because corners are the ultimate calibrators of puzzles, so you're not going to get parity with these. So in this case, we'll do to our U, to our UI, to our turn, to our UI, to our U, to our. Find two corners that are in, which is here, which will automatically be exactly where it needs to be. Blue is here. I know it's here. Didn't even have to look. To our U, to our UI, to our turn, to our UI, to our U, to our. And now we just have a collection of edge swaps. To our, to U, to our, to U, to our, to U, to our U, to our U, to our, to U, to our, to U, to our U, to our UI, to our, and it's solved. So that's the simplest of solves.